Identify yourself with the record name and address, please.
Julie Dilworth, Burlington, 3975 Meadowbridge Road, Salisbury.
Okay. Indicate to the court why you're seeking a protective order.
For 3 years, I have felt extremely harassed and duressed, upset, scared for myself and my kids because of actions of Joe Albero.
Okay. How do you know Mr. Albero? How did you meet Mr. Albero?
I met Mr. Albero through a mutual friend of ours, Mark McGyver. We were introduced over at his residence.
Can you tell the court about how that introduction or how that took place?
Yes. So there was a meeting I was asked to attend. After the meeting, we were socializing on his sun porch.
And who was his?
Mark McGyver's.
Okay. And was this a quasi-political function?
The event preceding the socializing, yes.
Okay. Go ahead. What happened next?
So Mr. McGyver asked me if what I thought of Joe Albero, and I did not know that Joe Albero was sitting right across the room from me. And I said, I think he's an asshole. And anyway, they all had a big laugh because, basically at my expense, because I didn't know who he was. I had never seen him before. But after that, we...
Did there come a time when you essentially got to know Mr. Albero some months later a little bit better?
Yes.
And would you describe that as being somewhat friendly after some period of time?
Yes.
Was there contact with Mr. Albero?
Yes.
And how was the contact essentially?
He would, call me or email me or text me, or he had invited me back over to an event at a social event at Mr. McGyver's house. That was essentially it.
Okay.
This is after you said what you said about him?
Yes, sir.
Some months later, correct?
Go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, so there came a point in time where you was it somewhat of a friendly relationship with you and Mr. Albero?
Yes.
Okay. Did that change at some point in time?
Yes.
What happened?
I started just feeling more uncomfortable and felt he was kind of creepy, and that I probably should have entrusted my initial thoughts about him. And so I started...
Well, just describe for the court briefly, if you would, what you mean by creepy. What was happening that disturbed you?
Like I said, he invited me to an event. There were all men there. His wife wasn't there. I just started feeling more uncomfortable.
And what kind of contact? Was there continued texting and phone contact?
Yes, and I did contribute to his blog there.
Are these events social or political or public service or what?
Mostly, I would say there were no political vein, but there was some social aspects to it, and civic events as well.
Okay. Well, there came a time when the tenor of this friendship changed. Is that correct?
Yes.
And why did it change? So I'm trying to ask. Why did you change it?
I started feeling uncomfortable, so I started backing away and not associating with him. And as I did, with his commentary about me, and his actions got more...
What do you mean, his commentary?
On his blog that he's written extensively about myself.
And did you believe that he had developed some type of interest in you?
I don't know. I just felt very uncomfortable. That's all I can describe it.
Well, what did he write?
Starting back in 2009 up until a week ago, I would describe it as increasingly hostile.
I didn't ask you how you would describe it. I asked you, what did he write?
If I may, Judge. Let me have this marked as complainant one. Mr. Marquesi, that's what Ms. Brunton, I will show you what's been marked as petitioner. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Petitioner's number 1. Can you tell us what this is?
This was a post that was written last Friday that names me by my name, Julie Burlington. Do you want me to read it, or?
Let me ask you.
No, it speaks for itself. I can read if it's going to be introduced into evidence.
Judge, I'm going to have her read one entry.
All right.
Now, this was authored by Mr. Albero, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you believe it was, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you indicate to the court begin with the first entry on July 26th of this year, 9:39 a.m.
Taylor and Burlington are two peas in a pod.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Taylor and Burlington are two peas in a pod. Yes, I spelled that right. Hopes Burlington's daughters turn out just like her. Burlington's nickname in high school was Doorknob. Everyone got their turn.
Was there a
Your Honor, I just like to make one brief objection. The witness is reading from the comments section, and she testified earlier that it was Albero who authored it. Albero does not author the comments. Just want to make that for clarification's sake. But it speaks for itself.
Is this one of those things for people who don't have anything to do? And does for you, Counselor, does this blog solicit comments from people?
It gives them the opportunity to post anonymous comments.
Yeah, like Grapevine and the Daily Waste
Same
of
exact thing,
Times.
Your Honor. Just a little more volume than the Grapevine.
it would this certainly is. We'll show that Mr. Albero has complete control over his blog and judge, and
Well-
contributes to it, and can pick and choose as to what he wants to post.
Well, what I've heard so far that upsets me is how old are your daughters?
12.
Is the mention of
Exactly.
12-year-old children. Go ahead. We'll let it sit. I'm going to let it in for whatever it's worth.
Would you note the second from the bottom there, please? And what's the time? The same day. What's the time of that?
Okay, that is at 11:05 a.m.
Approximately an hour and a half after the first one.
Many.
What is
So
that?
is this a posted comment or something that Mr. Albero wrote?
I don't know.
It's under the comment section, Your Honor.
Beg your pardon?
It's a posted comment.
All right. If it's a
I just asked that it be admitted and let Sonny read it.
Well, back to my question that I asked you, what did Mr. Albero write?
I believe he wrote these comments.
We can establish that,
Go ahead and read that one.
whether he did or he did,
Exactly.
or whether that's somebody else who doesn't have much
Go ahead.
to do.
I think she is very attractive, but a friend of mine told me she was rubbing his blank all drunk at Adam's Ribs one night, right there with her husband there.
Jesus, Joseph and Mary.
And what's the next one say? A few
No
moments.
doubt she's a nymph.
Okay, let me enter this in the record. Now, Ms. Burlington, your belief that Mr. Albero is the author of these anonymous bloggings about you dates back some time, does it not?
3 years.
Okay. Was there let me direct, we're going to make this collectively petitioners to make the statement of petitions. Frank, get around here. Frank Alshay was been identified, excuse me, has been marked as petitioners 2. This is a posting signed by Joe. The picture at the bottom, the blown-up picture is the second part. Can you tell the court what that is, please?
Yes, this is an email from Joe Albero to me. And he says, see what I could have posted? I wonder what Purdue would have said then.
Yeah.
Joe.
And he says Joe, so that's clear to Mr. Albero, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And can you understand the reference of what it means by Purdue?
It's a company I work with.
You work for the Purdue company?
No, I don't work for them. They are a customer of mine.
Okay. What do you do for a living?
I work in industrial supplies. I'm in sales.
And you're married?
Yes.
Your husband's in the courtroom?
Yes.
And you have twin daughters age 12, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. What's the second portion of that, of the petitioners too?
This is a picture of me taken from a second-story balcony without my knowledge down my shirt.
Okay. Yes, Now, did there come a point in time when Mr. Albero took a picture of your feet?
Yes.
When was that?
I believe that was 2009, 2010, somewhere in that time frame.
And how did you become aware that Mr. Albero took a picture of your feet and passed it along to other bloggers or other customers?
Because there was a friend of mine named Joe Collins who Mr. Albero would call regularly asking him questions about me. And Mr. Albero sent Joe Collins a picture talking about my shoes and another gentleman's shoes and sent it to Mr. Collins, who then sent it to me. And Mr. Collins indicated to me that he was talking about my feet on the phone call with some unusual interest.
So Albero takes a picture of your feet and sends it out? Let me show you what's going on.
That's it.
I'm sorry.
That's a different post, sorry.
Join us as we look at them.
Let me show you what's been marked as petitioner's 3. Can you describe that or identify that for the court, please?
This was a post of a picture of my backside that I had no idea was being taken, and was posted on Mr. Albero's website, and just goes on to call me a liar and other awful, terrible things.
Just a moment, if I may. That's it.
Did I get a glass of water out of my... I got it.
Hold, you get to stay right there. You have some water in here?
Yeah. Bottle of something in there. I don't have it, that's all right.
You good? Okay. Let me show you what's been marked as petitioners 4 by the sex offender situation.
Oh, yes.
Can you indicate to the court what petitioners 4? Wait, let me show it to counsel.
This is just partial. Yeah.
I think I'd never try a case with this.
Is this from his blog?
Yeah, he's talking about leaving in trouble with sex offender.
Do you know when this is from?
She can tell us when it's from.
That was summer.
Question is it on or post? Why can't we use that last? It's too small.
I'm going to show this to you. This goes over.
And the glasses.
This can be all the petitioners.
Can I see that as well?
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Judge, I just need a moment while I give you some service.
Mr. Moore, this is from 2010.
Yes, sir. Show you petitions 4 and 5. There's 2 pages there, Mr. Wilson. Identify what that is, please.
Yes, this is a post approximately July or August, I think it was August 2010, where I was speaking at a local group, and I had one of my daughters, who was 10 years old at the
What
time.
kind of group?
It was the Republicans Club.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And what is stated is that I left my child alone with a known sex offender during this time, unattended.
And this was a group type of situation,
80 people in the room.
and there was a individual from Wycomico County who, by the way, is a businessman in town, who is on the second page, who is a registered sex offender. Is that correct?
Yes.
And his name is?
Gary Kleiman.
Okay. Is that on the second page?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Was the statement state or imply that the person sitting with your child or taking care of your child was known to you to be a sex offender?
He said I should have known.
You could have known.
Should have known or could have known.
Should have known, could have.
A question on the court's question. Can you just take another moment or two, Ms. Brewington? Could you describe just what that setting was and what, if any, contact the individual that Albero names as a sex offender had with your daughter, if any at all?
Mr. Albero was present. It was not known to me that Gary Kleiman was a sex offender. There were 80 people present. There was a room where my daughter went to politely read a book and draw, and he stood in the doorway of that.
Who is he?
Gary Kleiman. Next to Joe Albero, standing side by side, basically.
So Mr. Albero is attempting to blog and say to folks in the community that...
Objection, this has the leading nature of these questions.
Ms. Brington, are you active politically?
Not anymore.
But you were?
Yes, sir.
When did you cease to be active?
2 years ago.
2 years ago?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Ms. Brewington, based on our exhibits that the court has at the bench, are you indicating that this continuing course of conduct leads you to believe that the blogs posted on July 25th were in fact posted by Mr. Albero?
Yes, but can I clarify my previous statement?
Sure.
Because when I say I'm not politically active anymore, I don't do the activities that I did prior. I still write about some of the political activities. I do go to council meetings as a citizen, but I'm not involved in any way, shape, or form in any political function.
Have you figured out what Mr. Albero has against you, Julie? I mean, why has
Objection is to the...
Why has he chosen you to be so vile and vicious about? Why has he chosen you to be so vile and vicious about? You know?
I don't know. I just wanted to leave my children alone and leave me alone. I don't know why. I haven't had any contact with him in over 2 years. When I asked him to please leave my children alone.
And he continues to blog or post blogs about your kids.
About my kids, about me, and about sexual things about me that I find very disturbing, very frightening.
Describe the court the level of fear and fright that you have with regard to Albero.
I am so concerned about this man's conduct over 3 years without even having contact with him that he continues to try and harass me. There is no other purpose in the world to mention my name except to harass me. I'm concerned about the level of interest he has in my family members. It makes me fearful that people might think that I go out and perform sexual acts on strangers in public, that I might be targeted for a sexual assault. I do not know that this man is not dangerous, considering the conduct that I have experienced. It has interrupted my daily life. It's interrupting my work. I'm an emotional wreck, and I am scared about my kids, and I can't do anything to stop it. I am distressed.
Now,
I'm alarmed.
are you familiar with the individual by the name of Tracy Powell?
I know her name. I know who she is.
Relevance.
We're getting to her.
Okay.
Just give me. And do you know what, if any, relationship Tracy Powell, of a professional nature at this point, had with Mr. Albero?
I was told she worked for him. I know they have been together at various events.
Okay. And do you know if she works for him any longer?
I have no idea.
Have you ever spoken with Tracy Powell about Mr. Albero's penchant for...
Objection.
Have you ever
Pretty
spoken...
far off course there.
Well, let him finish the question. His pension for what?
Have you ever spoken with the former employee Tracy Powell about Mr. Albero's penchant for writing comments on his own blog and signing them as anonymous?
No.
Okay. All right.
Want to object to that?
Well, plenty of people do know about it. All right.
Discuss.
Now,
Exhibit's got no crap.
Pictures.
one more minute, Joe.
Come on, I buried it. Where'd it go?
Okay.
This, identify for Judge Hayman what the petitioner's flag is.
This is a picture my daughter drew of Mr. Albero.
Which daughter is that?
Meredith.
And did you ask her to draw this picture?
No.
Meredith afraid of Mr. Albero?
Yes.
What is the date of this picture?
When she fetched that?
Beg your pardon?
6 months ago, maybe.
Mom, what is a good time?
If Meredith's indicated that she's in fear of Mr. Albero,
Yes, sir.
and your other daughter also?
Yes.
Is it clear that Mr. Albero's postings and comments about you and his infatuation has really disturbed your life?
Objection as to...
Yes, sir.
Well, how's Mr. Albero's actions affected you?
If I was looking for a job and anyone Googled my name, I would not hire me. I am afraid to go...
Who would not hire you?
An employer, if I was an employer Googling my name with all the things that have been written about me, I would not hire me. I
am aware that employers now do that. And they read your Facebook pages and what you posted on that. And so for all you young ladies out there who are inclined to post a picture of yourself in the all together to send to your boyfriend and to their prospective employer someday, may read that, in which case you ain't going to get the job unless you're applying to be a pole dancer. Go ahead.
Your concern, I guess, one is, just to be, and with regard to petitions, number one is referred to as a doorknob, everybody gets a chance.
Objection. He's testifying, Your Honor.
Well, do those comments concern with regard to being Googled and employment possibilities? You
Yeah.
work for yourself, right?
There's hundreds of them.
Yeah, you work for yourself, correct?
No, I work for a company called, do you need to know my company's?
No, it's okay. And beyond what, if any, issues do you find with regard to being harassed by Mr. Albero?
Do you want to know my emotional distress?
Yes.
I have, at one point, I lost about 15 pounds. I've been physically ill.
Ms. Brewington, you can never be too rich or too thin.
Or too tan, I think, to complete.
I did find those pounds back.
Don't be too tan, you get skin cancer.
That's the Aristotle on this quote.
I have trouble sleeping. I am shaking right now and have been all morning.
Why?
This is so distressful
You
to
think
me.
that something is going to happen to you in this courtroom?
No, sir.
Bailiffs will shoot to kill if they have to.
And they're good aim, especially Mr. Bailiff up here. Judge, I have no other questions right now. Get the
Cross-examination.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Ms. Brington, or actually good afternoon. You author a blog of your own.